to a business owner that's starting their own company,
Mm-hmm.
where can they get advice on this subject, on this very broad subject?
Absolutely. The first thing I say, network, because it's the greatest way to get business is by word of mouth referral. To be sure you're doing that, you can join a speakers club. All over the place. We're sitting in Ipswich, and there's one meets on Thursdays at the UCS called the Ipswich Speakers Club, and they will just help you. I think it's about frighteningly expensive, something like £40 a year. Absolutely, and they give you tea and coffee. And it's all about working through a set of manual with a set of exercises and topics that you're marked on, and you're learning to speak in a supportive, friendly environment, which I think is key.
I think that's a big thing, isn't it? Because traditionally, as a speaker, you feel when you first do it, everyone in the audience wants you to cock it up.
Yeah, but they don't.
But they don't. But it's only after you've got a bit of experience and you've sat through a few presentations, you start to think, actually, no, they don't. They are supportive.
Yep.
But immediately going to something like these speakers clubs and stuff, it is an informed peer group that will give you the guidance you need.
You get, I mean, a typical evening, you'll have 2 or 3 standard speeches. You'll have what they call table topics, which are where you'll get a minute, 2 minutes, or 3 minutes to speak on a particular subject that you don't know until you stand up. Great for teaching a waffle. And you'll have evaluations. So everything that's done is evaluated, so you're getting feedback. And if you're on your first speech, which they reckon 4 minutes about yourself, it's not really difficult to get your handle around. So yeah, they're great. Or if you don't have that time, talk to somebody like me. I help people do that. In fact, I sent you an email this morning saying I think it was going to be late because I'd received an email from somebody I'd spoken to 2 years ago who now has a keynote speech to deliver at his association event in 6 weeks, and realised that he's not prepared for it. So
ironic, I replied to it. But I think you have to accept things happen when you're doing speeches. Things can. One of my worries with it is I'm acutely aware that I don't have enough pauses in. But I wasn't aware of it.
Okay.
I was a very fast talker.
Yeah.
But the one I was aware of before someone pointed it out to me is I'm quite wordy. I like to talk around subjects. So say for example I've got a presentation to deliver for a minute and it's on 3 subjects. So I think, right, 33 seconds each roughly, or 20 seconds each and a little bit of an intro and a close. I know I have to fight tooth and nail mentally to keep to that time slot on each subject.
It's great discipline. It's fantastic.
Because I know if I'm not careful, that time will disappear.
Yeah, it will.
And
I might prepared, it will disappear.
I might, and that's exactly the point I was going to make. Is I'll rehearse it. Quite often I've rehearsed things in front of my wife because I know she will be more brutal on me than the audience will. And there's a few times she said to me, I don't really get where you're going with that, it's not really relevant to the topic matter or something like that, or she'll say, yeah, absolutely fine. But I know if I, say for example, I've got a 10-minute presentation to do, when I rehearse it, I'll sit there, and I'll time it. It might be 9 minutes 50, and I think, yeah, that's good, that's fine. And I'll do it a few times, and it will come out somewhere between 8 minutes 30 and 9 minutes 50, and stuff. And I'm quite confident. And then, I'll sit there. I'll have the usual anticipation as it's coming round to my time to speak, and I'll get up. Yeah. And once I've said my first sentence or two, I'm in the flow and I'm all right.
You're fine.
And I'll look at the audience and I'll gauge feelings, and I like to try and gauge the how I'm delivering it versus how the audience is looking. Lots of head nodding, things like that. You can take a degree of feedback from the audience.
You've raised a lot of points there. First one is timing, critical, and something I tell any first-time speaker at a networking event: if you've got 60 seconds, just take out the bit where it says who you are and what you do, and what you're going to end with. Again, who you are and what you do. In the middle, no more than 100 words. Like I was saying, that's no time. But you've got 60 seconds, and some of the best communicators speak at 120 words a minute. So if you tell me you're going 10 minutes 10 words at the front, 10 words at the end and 100 in the middle, you've got time to pause, you've time for emphasis, and you've time to make your point. But that needs to be scripted. And that's the key. If you're writing a longer speech, average out at about 115, 120 words a minute, and you'll be fine.
There'll be natural pauses for thinking and...
Yeah, that's a great thing. If you're up there thinking, don't and
Yeah.
don't use filler words. Just use silence.
But you look at a politician, you don't hear that. You don't hear it very, very seldom, unless they're being pushed on like a question time event. Very seldom do you hear the ums and ahs. They'll put a pause in.
The thing with politicians is they pause in the middle of sentences and run two together. The reason is you can't interrupt them. They'll pause in the middle, and you know there's more to come. And there's a technical thing here. When they're asked questions, the best person on the planet, whatever you think of them, in their pomp for answering questions, was Tony Blair. He was recognised throughout the world as being the best politician at answering questions. He used a technique which is called, technical word here, it's called lowering the ladder of abstraction. Basically, he said yes or no to the question up front, but before the interviewer had a chance to intervene, he told a story. Now, he told a story because people like stories. People don't interrupt stories, and people let you tell a story. So he could bring you full circle back to where he wanted to be. And he gave him the opportunity to put his point across.
With you saying that, I can now picture that, because I thought he was a fantastic public speaker, because he got away from the staid, monotone politician voice that most of us have endured throughout our life.
Being preached at.
William Hague, I think, has got the most appalling voice. And I find it, doubt he's ever going to see this, but I find his voice nauseates me so bad that I cannot listen to what he says.
Before he had his 14 pints?
Literally, I just literally switch off. I'm like, William Hague, shut up. I cannot get around it. Tony Blair, I found he was very animated, he was very positive. He had a good change of pitch in his speech, but above all else, as a politician, he actually, regardless of whatever else, he looked like he cared.
Yes.
He looked like he cared, and that's something that
Do you remember me talking to you about President Reagan's speechwriter? She gave public speaking one of the best phrases there is. Your audience don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And once your audience have bought into the fact that you care about your topic, they're with you. Believe me, they'll come with you.
Yeah, I think Tony Blair's probably one of the biggest shining examples of that.
The other person who, again, not politics aside, it doesn't matter what you think of them, who has an engaging speaking style is Nigel Farage.
I think
very, very hard to take offence at the way he behaves and how he speaks.
And same with Barack Obama again. I think he's a very, very impassioned speaker the way he comes across, but also he doesn't set himself at arm's length. He doesn't put himself, although he's probably got the best job in the world, most powerful job in the world, as many say, sort of thing. That he does seem approachable.
Well, I did a bit of research 4 or 5 years ago now. I sent every MP, because you can get their email through the House of Commons, an email asking them who would influence them most with their public speaking style. Just if you want to hazard a guess at who came up.
And how long ago was this?
5 years.
5 years ago. Tony Blair.
Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton. By a mile. Bill Clinton. Because Bill Clinton also was once asked by a reporter after, I think it was his second inauguration, by something like 750,000 people, was that the biggest audience you've ever spoken to? He said no. He said, what was? He goes, one. Because he only speaks to one person at a time. So you'll find, it's like when you're a little bit nervous at a speech, stand up, and if you're quiet, heads come up and look to you. Just find a set of eyes, look at them, and start talking to one person, and then move on.
Something I've used at times, when you're on a subject that maybe during the course of a presentation your confidence takes a tiny wobble. If I can find a familiar face in the audience that I know I like, and I know I get on with, and I know likes me, you know, it's really funny. There's a particular instance. I was looking around, and I remember seeing my, you know, my accountant in the audience once. I saw a face, saw a smile, just gave me that little lift. Just gave me that little. There's a little personal thing. Just gave me that little lift that there's an ally in the audience. And
don't get too hung up on the ally, because there was some advice given around some years ago. It said, when you get up to speak, find a friend in the audience. The problem is, if you're not that confident on speaking, you stand up and you suddenly start looking around and there is no friend in the audience, panic sets in big time. This is why I said, just pause, up will come the heads, first set of eyes you see, start speaking to them. Now, if you've got a couple of friends in the audience, by all means use them, but don't rely on it. That's all I'm saying. Is it because you know the thing about fear, and we talked about this before. Our fear, we've got fear triggers. You know, it's like you're walking through the forest, or your ancestors were walking through the forest, and you turn around a corner, this path, turn around a corner, and this very, very large, very nasty wolf was standing there, and you fled. So 3 weeks later, you're walking through the forest, and you hear a crack of wood, of a twig, and your brain instantly tells you that that's the sound you heard just before you met this big nasty wolf last time, and you immediately get fear. And this is what happens when people are frightened of anything. They have this fear memory, and there's all these triggers, a bit like the triggers we talked about before, that start to work on them being nervous. And you mentioned it as well. When you have fear, you throw out a bunch of hormones into your pituitary gland, which filters them out, and it sends the vast bulk of them to your adrenal glands. That's helpful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because
that's why you push through.
Yeah. And what do your adrenal glands associate with that? Fight or flight. So they send all the energy, all the blood, to the bits of your body that you're going to need. These and your legs. And where's it take it from? Your central cortex, the bit that helps you think. So it's telling you to do things because we've been conditioned over thousands of years to do it like this. And poor you in the middle of going, help. And that's what can happen if you don't have the friendly face. Whereas if you have a face, I see you or your wife or somebody else, and
it can even be just seeing a little nod here and there of
yes.
appreciation.
You
think, yeah, you know, or that you've got, you know, even a captive, you know, 30% of the audience appear to be engaged and interested. You know, that's, you don't want to focus your attention on the one that's sitting there checking their iPhone or something like that. But
sad fact of life is, in any presentation, the maximum, if you're really, really good, the maximum audience attention you can have is 87%. Because I bet you've sat through a presentation like I have, and you've gone on what some speakers call voyages of self-discovery. I sat in a presentation not long ago, I've mentioned briefly, woman next to me, the guy had been going on, so he just gets out a pad of paper and starts doing a to-do list. She wasn't paying any attention whatsoever. He hadn't connected and engaged with that person in a way that brought her into the conversation.
But it is a learning process. I remember delivering a speech when I first started my business. I was probably about 6 months into it, I reckon, something like that. So it's sort of 7.5 years ago, and the speech I delivered was too technical for the audience.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, and I remember thinking partway through it, you moron.
You got this wrong.
So I got through it, you know, I was all fine and stuff like that. You know, a few people come up and ask questions about it. So clearly some people were taking it in, but largely I feel to this day that I'd misjudged the audience that were there, sort of thing.
Simple, honest, direct language.
Yeah.
Cut out jargon, cut out management speak, cut out marketing speak, cut out gobbledygook. Because if you are delivering a speech and just one person doesn't get a couple of words you use, you've lost them. Yeah. I remember, I worked for Hewlett Packard for a long time, and I remember going into a meeting where a senior VP had come over from America to tell us what was the latest things. And he started off by using some business jargon, some management speak, that I'd never heard before. So I missed the first 3 or 4 minutes just trying to work out what the heck he was talking about. And as I was going out, I said to a friend of mine, you know, did you get that? He said, well, no. What were those phrases he used at the beginning? So he'd lost a lot of his audience by being too smart.
And if you lose them earlier, it's harder to get them back.
And the thing with management speak is often used to hide behind. There was a survey done in 2011 that said people are using management speak now as a way of disguising the fact that they haven't done their job.
No, I can think of many examples in my working career where I've...
So if you cut it out with your speech, because you want people to come with you. So if you're using words that they don't understand, or you know they may not understand, don't use it.
Well, thank you very much for coming in. It's been great to talk to you. It's also been nice to meet you as well, you know, and we've covered a fair amount of it, but ultimately there is still so much more to do.
It's been a tour de force, really.
Yeah, it is, yeah. It's been very good, so thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, and you know, look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you.